Well, good morning and welcome to the start of what potentially is going to be 2, maybe 3 videos in a little mini autumnal series. And I use the word autumnal with lots of wiggle room. Right now, we should have been somewhere in Scotland, in the Cairngorms, loving what looks to be another beautiful autumn. But a few circumstances, not least the ongoing issues with the current situation, have prevented much travel. A few other things going on as well. Now, here in Northern Ireland we do have little pockets of quite nice woodland, not least down at Tullymore. Unfortunately, again, travel's a bit sort of up in the air at the moment, and I say a few other things going on that are preventing that. So up here in the north coast, again, we have a couple of little pockets of woodland, but I wouldn't say there's a couple that have potential that I've been kind of working towards over the past couple of months. I thought I might as well record the next probably week or so of out bimbling around. Now, we are still semi-hopeful of getting over to Scotland, but as things stand right now, that's looking less and less and less likely. So I thought I would bring you along for the ride, and I'm going to just say this right off the bat. I don't think we're going to get a huge amount of images, but as I've always maintained, this channel is about the journey. And a big part of that journey is going to be days and perhaps the next few weeks like this, where you're struggling to find something. And even if I can come away with, let's say, 3 images over the next series of videos that I'm reasonably pleased with, then I think it will be a reasonable selection from what I think is going to be another disappointing autumn. Last year we were supposed to do exactly that in the van, sort of 4 weeks, sort of all around Scotland, and there was a couple of personal issues that prevented us from doing that, which meant we had to end up, albeit a wonderful trip anyway, a month in the Outer Hebrides. If you came here looking for epic, the door's over there somewhere, so this is all about the reality. Oh, and while it is autumn and we are looking for autumn colours, you know, being in a woodland, you can sometimes get transfixed around this time of year just looking for autumn colours. You know, nothing's changed for me in terms of walking around a woodland. I'm still looking for shapes and stories, and texture and tones, and some of those may not even include any autumn colours. Right, let's go for a little bit of a dander. I get the feeling this morning I'm going to be jumping in and out of the car, wandering around a couple of different woodlands. I say woodlands a lot there, didn't I? Don't think I'm going to make an image here, but again, just about paying attention to shapes and form and texture and story. And behind me here there's a little kind of gnarled tree, and I don't think the leaves have taken on a huge amount of colour. It's very difficult to tell because it's just about sunrise now and we're a little bit deeper into the woodland, but there is a little bit of a gap in the canopy which is letting a little bit of light stream right on, whereas the tree sort of there-ish, stream onto that tree, whereas it's throwing the rest of the sort of background and stuff into a little bit of shade. And the trunk of the tree and the branches of the tree are really covered in lots and lots of moss, which is just reflecting some lovely sort of light as well, light and shadow. Potentially an image there, but I'll stick that one in the memory banks and we'll wander on. So just walking through the woods here and coming to a little bit of a clearing, and there's a little bit of a direct gap all the way through to the horizon, and oh, here comes heavy rain, and it looks like it's a beautiful sunrise out on the coast. Now what that was doing was it was giving us some lovely um, kind of lovely subdued orange light, but nothing doing with compositions, and now it's raining pretty heavily, so we'll keep on wandering. Behind me here is what looks through the eye to be, I wouldn't say a lovely scene, but just a lovely mixture of colours. There's a lot of greens and sort of really deep ambers, yellows, sort of the whites of the trees, just a whole mixture of colours. I think it's just too busy a scene to try to make something of it. Now we are getting some lovely reflective light. It's quite clear above me here, but out to my right, your left, there's some lovely thick cloud that's obviously taking on some light and reflecting that down into the canopy. But I might make a scene here. I might get the tripod out and actually just grab a quick scene. I think it's too busy, but just that whole mixture of colours really is dragging me in, and especially with that overhead reflected light. So yeah, maybe I will make a little image here. Yeah, something tells me that at least for the foreseeable, the photography is over. Annoying. Yesterday, a couple of days, we've had fantastic changeable conditions, and so throughout the day we've had really low, soft light, and up in the little woodland that I'm in, at a reasonable elevation, and so there was pockets of cloud and everything moving through. I passed through here yesterday in the van going to get new tyres, and it looked, for all intents and purposes, that it was going to be exactly the same conditions this morning, or at least similar. And it started out good. We had that lovely reflected light, but about 10 minutes ago I noticed that there was a huge dark foreboding cloud on the visible horizon, and this is now what we find ourselves under. So I'm starting to make my way back to the car. There is reception there. Should be able to check and see what the weather forecast is like, and then we'll take it from there. Hey ho, hey ho. I told you not to expect epic. Right, so made my way across to another little woodland, and I would say that we are still probably a week away from decent colour. There definitely is little pockets of it up above me, more pockets of autumnal colour where the canopy is exposed, but down here, and especially down in the kind of the undercarriage of the story, very green in the ferns, but that's okay. Might also get, you can probably still hear it's still raining-ish. A little bit more cover in this woodland, so hopefully it won't get as wet. But we'll take a wander down and see whether there's even a couple of compositions that we can work on, even with a lack of colour. Although, having said that, you know what? A mixture of that transitional period between late summer, early autumn can sometimes work as well, so we'll see what we can come up with. Oh, and I think I've mentioned this before. I love the noise of rain on leaves in a woodland. I think that is perhaps one of the most relaxing things. quite sure what that was. Seemed like someone stood on a horn. Oh, so a complete polar opposite to how the conditions were half an hour ago. That heavy rain moved through, but instead of leaving behind some sort of light cloud to diffuse the sunlight, we now have a lot of clear skies above us, which, as you know, in a woodland isn't ideal because you get a lot of specular highlights which are extremely hard to control. That combined with the fact that we are still in what looks to be very early transitional over to autumn here. But you work with what you're given, and I've kind of come across a little scene here that caught my eye. Now, ideally, that understory, the undercarriage, would be much more autumnal, but it is one perhaps to think about going forward, is using the limbs of the trees as a little bit of a framing element, and then you've got a little sapling which actually has got a little bit of translucent light coming through its leaves, and then obviously you've got that lovely red sort of flash as well. My concern is that in the frame, in the foreground tree, there's a sort of a hanging branch that it's very difficult not to include. So, and I don't think that really adds a lot because it's just a bog standard sort of branch. And in fact, since I've been talking to you, what light was kind of coming in there has kind of dissipated a little bit now as well, so I'm not even sure this works. But now we do have some more cloud coming over, which is hopefully going to start diffusing some of that light, getting rid of some of those specular highlights, probably bringing more rain with it. But yeah, this place is a couple of weeks away from better autumnal colour. Oh, so I've actually left that little woodland behind and come along to another one, and again, like previous, it certainly looks, which is, you know, I expect this year. We're still a good two weeks away from colour, at least more colour than just simple pockets. And as I said in the previous little section, I think that diffused cloud coming over had the chance to bring rain, and that's exactly what it brought. So we're back into dark, dank, not very photogenic conditions. So, but hey, this is all part of the landscape photographer's journey, stroke day, stroke life. So we'll go for a quick wander here, get a little bit of an eyeball in, and then we'll make a plan of what we're going to do. Probably home for a cup of tea. Well, I think that's going to be us for today. That light is now gone again, those really bright highlights have gone again, but it's just completely sucked in, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get another heavy burst of rain, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get that on and off now. There's not going to be any kind of transitional period. Now, definitely hasn't been a waste of time. Have I got one of my 3 autumnal images? Not by a long shot, but hasn't been a waste of time. There's a few little moments that have been stored into the old memory banks, and certainly it looks like this area is a couple of weeks away, 2 to 3 weeks away, maybe 2 weeks away from at least that the ferns and stuff really taking. Hopefully you've got something out of this, not least something to send you off to sleep with. As I say, I'm going to break this up into how many it takes over these next couple of weeks as I bimble, probably mostly locally, but depending on how situations develop, we might get a little bit further afield. But there's going to be a lot of this now, probably with images that don't necessarily come up to grade, but it's all about that journey. and certainly around this time of year, as we are approaching that autumn time, the sort of exploration is a huge part of it. Well, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care, bye bye.